skyscraper, the best roads, but once the human mind and is not developed, none of those things are meaningful anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to call attention. Obviously, we continue. There's a group of women of us around the world that are focusing on just violence towards women and children in Liberia and immigrant communities around the world, and we will continue to speak and bring light to this until someone listens to us. So if you wanted to ask me additional question, I'd be glad to answer, but I don't want to go on a rampage.
Okay, that's good. Okay, the next question. Let me start off with Kula, and then but first of all, let me. I hope I don't know whether you guys are already connected on social media. But Kula, please to meet Dr. Francien Richardson. Dr. Francien Richardson, please meet Kula.
Nice meeting you, Kula.
Very nice to speak with you.
Probably right after the show, you guys can take it from there, because we're all doing the same work. It's good for us to get to know each other and be connected as well. But let me ask you guys this question. I mean, for me personally, every woman to me, every woman is a mother, and I give women respect. In terms of this, the issue of rape in Liberia, why is it that rape is a big issue in Liberia, and people keep offending, and I can say people even keep re-offending? Let me start with you, Kula.
Well, like years back, I did a research just to understand why are people raping. Why do men rape? Especially because most of the people who are the perpetrators are men, majority are men, very few are women. But unfortunately, nobody can tell you exactly why do they rape. But most of our findings led to this concept of this whole masculinity, how men feel powerful, this whole concept of power, what does that mean? So because they have that power, so they exercise their power in different means. Because sometimes people say, oh, because the way the girls dress. And it's not true. Many of the victims of sexual violence are babies, are minors, like the 13-year-old baby girl you talked about. And most of these rape issue happened in the home. They don't see women on the street and jump on them like that, you know. So I mean, many of these things happen. I mean, it's something that nobody could say, but sometimes people look at it from the aspect of the war, but before the war, people were still getting raped. And one of the reasons why you're hearing a lot about it, back then, rape was seen as something normal in a family. So when your uncle does something to you, you shut up, you don't say anything. Or when somebody does something wrong with you, it's a family thing. You're not supposed to go and report it. But because people are seeing that there is an attempt, there's a rape law, there's a criminal code E that adjudicates the case, though the process is very slow, but at least there are avenues that you can go to. There are organizations that can speak for you. There are people like the Ministry of Gender, the Gender Department, the GBV unit is there. So there are many other outlets. That's why you have people, at least they're trusting the system. When something happens, they can go to, even within the police, there is the Women's and Children Protection Unit within the Liberia National Police. So there are all these outlets, because there sometimes, though research haven't been done to understand why it's still happening, but you can see that more people are reporting it, but also it's still happening. So maybe people need to understand whether there are more reports than the action, but if you look at the consistency in the numbers, it's still going up. And the names that I use in the piece that I wrote that you read, these are actual names. These are real little girls. The Olivia girl, she was raped by a relative in Todi, and nobody brought that. It was some neighbor who took the case to the police, and they connected them with the Ministry of Gender. Then I was working at the Ministry of Gender. That kid, that little girl was sick. She dropped out of school. She used to walk with a pee bag in her hand. She suffered. Before her 18th birthday, that little child died at the hospital. It's really disheartening. All those little Kubo, small little girl. She was 9 years old. Yasa. If you, there are a whole list of them. Those things are happening to them. It's really heartbreaking. So why these people do these things is something that you don't understand. And the measures that in place now, they're even trying to weaken the measures, trying to reduce, to make it a billable offense, so that when someone is accused or someone go to prison, they be out the next day, they in the street, or someone can go and put a bond on them and get them out. So what happens to those little girls who, some of them, their perpetrators have left and will get put to be found? So it's a really difficult and challenging situation. And it's a difficult thing, but it's still happening. Nobody will tell you. But my own theory that I've put around it, I think this whole concept of masculinity and power relations, and how men see, especially those men who rape, see themselves as powerful, so they can do anything and get away with anything. The justice system is still not helping, because some of them are behind bars and justice has not been served. So those little girls dying every day.
Francine, let me come to you. You are from the medical background. What do you think going on here? Does it have anything to do with perhaps psychosocial issue or psychological issue? Also, especially committing rape is a heinous crime. For somebody to commit it and to have that mind, 40 years or 37 years of going out with her, sleeping or raping a 9 years old child. What's going on here?
Sure. So let's look at this, and we can look at it. You rightfully put it in a psychosocial context. Okay. So, and this is how I see. I see this in a way no different than other populations, but a little bit more emphasis on Liberia. So you can look at this rape behavior, or either the sexual interactions between men and women, or between men and men, or or people in Liberia, could be viewed as a learned behavior, which means that you saw somebody relate to you in a violent way or in an inappropriate sexual content, and that's what you know. And this could have some historical context to it. Like your earlier speaker said, this has always been occurring in Liberia. Uncles, people took advantage of little girls. If you actually survey a lot of older Liberian women, they will tell you stories about how they were living in other people's home, and and as they were growing up, or sometimes in their own homes, and their family friends would come over and try to touch them, and some of them were successful. So we're looking at how did these men learn how to do such behavior and thought that it was right, it was condoned by our culture and our society. Okay, so then we have those category of men that have learned this behavior. They know that is wrong. Everybody knows that is wrong, but then we just let it go. Then the other part would be the wiring of the brain, which is the sick part now, the really psychological part, which basically says, okay, this person has a sexually deviant behavior. And this is and this is what we have to tease out in our country, and this is why we need a sophistication of professionals to do, because if this person is wired wrongly, and there are people who are born like this, who they are attracted to children. They are not attracted to their own.
Really?
Yes, it's a diagnosis. Okay, it's just like people can have fetishes. I hope the children are not listening to the show. It's an adult fetishes for other things like shoes and I don't know. Some people. I've been in business for a long time. Some people have told me they have fetishes for animals as well. But so they will have attraction not for their own age group. Like a 30-year-old man would not go to have sexual desire for a 30-year-old woman. He would have desire for perhaps a 5-year-old girl or 6 or 9-year-old girl, and those women become their target. And these people are very cunning and manipulative.
Well, let me hold you that. Let me hold you that.
Yes,
Let me hold you.
Let me for a second.
Let me hold you. Let me hold you that. Let me hold you that. I want to understand, because a lot of people are listening now. They, we're all getting concerned and say, "Oh, is it really?" I mean, in terms of being attractive, what you just talk about. I mean, because you're from the medical side. This have been proven that indeed somebody can be 40 years and can be attracted to a 5 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and the way that we know that is we have studied the brain. People have done different electronic images of the brain, and it will kind of give you different pictures and see what part of your brain was lighting up. Like there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is our emotions and our control our emotions and behavior. And some of those areas will lighten up, and those people will actually tell you. We've done studies that will tell you. No, we don't. Repeatedly, when you look at the track record, in developed countries like where I am right now in the United States, we have sexual residential programs, sexual deviant residential programs for people with this condition. We put them in those areas and they go through rehabilitation and they are monitored because they can't help it. They will tell you that they can't. And we have ways to give them psychological testing.
Wow. This is very, very concerning. Let me come back to you, Kula. Kula, I mean, hearing this kind of actuality in terms of I call it research results or so. In the context of our own society in our Liberia, where we stand today, do you think somebody should be held responsible as well? Whether it will be the system, whether it will be the justice aspect of to be blamed for what is happening, because maybe somebody is not being punished. That's why.
Come on, there are people being punished. There are people who are running away. The same way your brain can be wired to see some danger, to see a car moving, and you say you want to jump on the road. The same part of your brain that can wire you back and say, "Don't jump on the road, get killed." Yeah. You can control that. It's something that, maybe there are people who condition may be extreme, that those people are definitely pervert, and you can see some of them. If you study their behavioral pattern, you will understand that it's something that it is grown with them. Maybe some of them may be linked to their addiction to pornography or all kinds of different things that has built up over the time. Right?
Yeah.
So it has to be blamed no matter what the situation is. In the situation with Liberia, we in a closed society, so everybody know everybody. So when you see you see your relative or somebody's child, you want to send them, and next thing you go look, your brain gets high or whatever that is. But if they know that child was well, for example, if you want to rip a child and maybe that child was HIV positive, you wouldn't think about even wanting to rip that child, right? If you know this person, maybe the child parent died of HIV, or the child is affected, or they have some illness that you catch, by raping that child, you will definitely not want to put your own life at danger. So there's a whole brain pattern that you can control, certain part of your brain, you can control your own behavior. But in terms of looking at the justice system, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Liberia is a very challenging country. The justice system is very challenging. People go to court. Sometimes you don't even have evidence. Sometimes the evidence are not very strong, especially for the victims. And sometimes most of those cases end up just nothing happening to the cases.
Okay.
And even with the system of recreation or rehabilitation, all sides. So most of the work that we do in Liberia is at the end part. Like, not a lot of work goes on to prevention, right?
Okay.
Prevention is a situation where, like many other developed society, you have young girls learning when to not be in a position, who to talk to. For example, if if there's this uncle who's touching you inappropriately, where you can go, like those little information that will help those little children. Many families don't even have conversation with their daughters and sons about certain things. And even if you do those things, people still in this quiet form of society don't put our family business outside there. You, who you think you are, where you think you want to go about this. So I mean, it's a whole bunch of different challenges. But I think the thing is, the court system is also a huge challenge. How do we get at this? I really don't have an answer, and I think there's no one answer to it. It's a combination of a lot of things. Yeah. Firstly, the education system. How do we educate our daughters and sons about rape, and that there's an outlet, and that you can talk to a counselor. In fact, most of our schools don't even have counselors. Like in developed countries like the US and UK, most of the schools got counselors. When you see something happening in your home that is you're not comfortable with certain behavior of someone, you can talk to a counselor. Yeah. You can do something in Liberia. I mean, you just gotta keep quiet. You tell your man, say where you lie on your uncle, slap your mouth or do something with you, or something like that. Or sometimes even the mothers can really be tired because they're depending on this uncle or this brother or this husband of them to take care of the family. So if you say something about it, you're going to stop their support, so they don't believe you. But that behavior pattern continues, and you're helpless. What do you do?
All right, Francine. Let me take it from that perspective, because what Kula, just said. I mean, it's quite irrespective of things that are happening to be in actual sense, especially in Liberia. As far as the campaigning process aspect is concerned, let's put the issue of little Regina and her infant in the picture right here, and say, look, this is where we are, and somebody that was accused, has been in authority, and because of that, I think, and also because of the society that we live in, given the scenarios that some of you have just laid previously. And the justice, finding justice for little Regina and her infant, it seems to be something that is far from a reality. From your own professional background, in terms of advancing from where we are, how actually we can get justice for this girl, her daughter, her infant, and the rest. How can we go about doing it? It's if the authority is so much somehow closed that they don't want to open up.
Well, I mean, we kind of look at this from a culture issues here, So there's three things I talked about: learned behavior, which people learn, and it's right. Once you learn something, you can unlearn your behavior. And then there's a small population who have sexually deviant behavior. That's the second one. And then there's the cultural piece. How do we understand? How do people interpret the situation that happened to Regina? How complacent is our society? Okay, so and that's the piece that sometimes, as you were saying, it gives us the sense that maybe there might not be any justice for her because how complacent this society is. But I think your guest that you have said something very important that I agree with as well. It's the sense of awareness. So when we look at women in a system, we have to look at this systematic with that. Women are in a system where they are also oppressed. They are not empowered enough to say, if you rape my daughter, women teachers, nurses, who majority are women, aides and stuff, you rape my daughter, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to knock down doors. But if women are not speaking up and they themselves are victims of the society that they live in, this is going to be an uphill battle. It's almost like you, the advocate, we who have seen things that can be done differently have to now sort of stand up or stand side by side with those women and educate and aware. So in other nations, as you said, and we spoke about this before, Max, that there'll be this state of Liberia versus the perpetrator of Regina, whoever raped Regina. That's how countries protect children. But in this situation, people are waiting for Regina, who's 13, who has nothing, probably from her family in terms of not, I mean, she's a valuable human being, but in terms of the resources to take somebody to court, to take her to court, because they're saying that they don't have enough evidence, which I think they get alluded to. That's part of the problem, too. Systematically, we don't collect forensic evidence well enough, nor do we maintain it to withstand the court system. But Liberia should be taken to protect children and women. Should be so upset that they're going to say, I'm going to go after whoever raped Regina or the likes of Regina. And that is something very easy to do, I think. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, what we're hearing, actually, the last I heard, I actually had an opportunity to speak to the female lawyer group in Liberia, and there's strong suspicions that Regina is not even in the country.
Wow.
And that creates a whole another entanglement right there if she's out of the country.
Okay, let me hope. I don't know the present position, but Madam Julia Duncan Cassette, if you can call as well, since you're watching the video, you just joined in watching. Former, I think she was former, let's say, gender and children protection minister. If you can call, Madam, please, let's hear from you as well as a mother, and we're discussing this. Thank you for joining in as well, watching live on Facebook from Liberia. But let me come back to you, Kula. Kula, in terms of way forward, because you made mention of culture as well. Culture is also playing part. And, you know, especially we read the poem about Regina, where she have gone to the village, but then, you know, everyone's just looking at her to be a bad girl. And that has to do with a distinct culture that we have, that when things happen, you know, you shouldn't talk and whatsoever. How can we, what role can we as advocates really play that will, you know, inform children that, you know, when something like this happens, you know, they should go somewhere to talk about it. How can what sort of recommendation will you have for maybe the authority or those that are dealing with, you know, cases of such?
Well, I think the situation is complex. It's not just a simple way to say, oh, let's inform, because it's one thing for the child to know that this is wrong and have an outlet, but it's a thing for them to have that power to go and say this actually what's happening to me, and someone will be able to listen to them and help them out. There's a whole system where a whole community is part. You know, we very like put it the cultural aspect. For example, if we like say, oh, you want to put your countrymen thing us out, you want to do this, everybody connected one with the other. So there's a whole community will say, oh, we're going to protect this person, or we want to make sure that this child doesn't say something bad, or, you know. So how do you ensure that? First of all, there are people who are hungry, people are poor, people can't afford food. So if people don't have food to eat, and there's someone who's a source of support for them, they will take on protecting the source of support. Because if they go further, they explain, yes, we're going to listen to them. Maybe they arrest that person and put them in jail. Then what happens? So they don't have food to eat. The person sitting in jail doesn't help them, right? But first of all, dealing with the sub issue, dealing with the bread and butter issue, but also empowering parents, seeing their children as not a commodity for them. They shouldn't use their children's silence to support them. You know, the children should have the opportunity to live. You brought the children forth. Why can't you find means to support them? We need to be able to have protection, because people don't feel protected, you know, beyond their little system, because they know people who are more powerful than them. They can manipulate and make them suffer or bear the consequences. So if there's a protective system, for example, if when someone comes up and explain and say someone's going to follow up that case through, someone's going to protect them, and they're finally going to get an outcome from their kids, definitely you have people coming up. But also parents too. People need to keep telling parents that your daughters are not your property, or your daughters should not be the one who to take care of you while they're still young. You are supposed to find means to take care of them and protect them. And that protection includes protecting them from people who want to violate their physical and sexual bodies. You need to protect your children throughout, whether their mental health, their physical health, emotional health, their educational needs. As a parent, you need to do that. So if parents understand bringing back the family value is very important, and having outlets, creating systems in communities where you have the school system, that there are counselors, like I said earlier, there are people who you can talk to besides just your educational needs, because children needs are just beyond education. Because sometimes what parents will do is they know they pay a school fees, or they send you to school, they buy a book and thinking that is it. But your well-being is far beyond just you going to school and putting on uniform. Besides even food, your emotional well-being, know who's violating you, know what is a violation, know what is abnormal. Because sometimes when people see these things as normal things, because you go, they someone who has somebody and you can't say anything about it because it's a family part.
Yeah.
It's a family. Don't do that. And you imagine that little girl had to go, allegedly have to be impregnated. So the fact that she was pregnant, she had a baby, it's not something that just happened one time, right? A 13-year-old child. So it means that this thing has been happening over a period of time, you know, and moving from one place to another. So there's a whole different thing. But first, we need to deal with people being aware that there's an outlet, and people and people who have gone through, there is an answer to their problem. That is, the cases will be adjudicated and a verdict will be given, and the person who is found guilty will go to jail. And then besides just going to jail, some form of care will happen. I mean, this is a long part. You remember the kids with injured Toba, they lived injured Toba, who parents were to do so, and this is something that many other families, maybe because these are prominent cases, that's why you're hearing them. What about those who need some voices? They're not prominent. What about the perpetrators? Are their relative who doesn't have any big name in society? Maybe that's why they're quiet. Maybe there are more people that we don't know about. Of course, there will be more people we don't know about because people are keeping it secret in our community. So it's a whole process of community initiative, everybody working and making sure things happen. But as advocates need to go just beyond the first step of social media involvement or the streaming, like you said, collecting evidence. And in legal procedure, you need evidence. Without evidence, it's going to be difficult to be able to prove, anything. And it's a difficult thing to do, but people need to make sure that, advocates need to be able to help. Not everything, first thing you want to post it on Facebook that this is happening. First thing, make sure the victim, the alleged victim is protected. Evidence are ready, because at the end of the day, when you go in, following the case is true, you need to provide all of those. Sometimes we just stop halfway. We just talk and stream and maybe do 1 or 2 media coverage. And then what happens even with this? Who's following this case up is just dead and gone. So these are things that people can really investigate. You want to tell me in the whole of the county, there's one person is not privy to the information, nobody knows, or nobody will be able to be that brave so to do, or even the advocates in that area, they can find out and get some form of information that will lead to an answer to this. It just tells you a lot about the Liberian side. It's a serious issue.
Francine. Francine, let me take it from the perspective of a psychological effect, and make us to understand here from your professional background. Let me bring the case of Regina in here. With respect to where she is right now, whether we don't even know whether she's alive or not, but let's pray that she's still alive. Given what she has gone through as a human being, from the point of psychological effect, does such actually last with such individuals for life, or will they be in a position of recovering even if they get help? Also, can they fully recover and forget about what happened to them?
I mean, we can look at this in multiple ways. People in general are resilient, so that it's possible that Regina could, maybe there's this one person in her life, and of course I'm hopefully thinking who attending to her, caring for her, and showing her some sort of support. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that she may, develop a way to manage, those symptoms that come with when one is traumatized, especially at a very early age, be the flashback, low self-esteem, a lot of negativity. Those things will be there underlying symptoms might exist, but depend, like, again, on her support. Or if she's not getting any kind of support, the worst of it all is the ability to connect to a child. So we have to, this is a mom, most mothers will be caring, they will be able to attend to a child because you are preparing the development of this child. You're looking at their well-being to make them a better human being. But if she's unable to, if she's not in emotional, if she's not emotionally correct herself or in the right place, then there's no way she can give that love to a child. So she'll be projecting all of those negativity, all of those anger, all kinds of behaviors onto a child. So now we have the system transmitting those really poor emotional regulations going on here from one child, from a mother to a child, and that child then carry it to somebody else, and then we have a whole nation of that's dysregulated. Perhaps it's possible that can happen. So you have the best side, which she's getting support, and it doesn't take. Sometimes it will take extensive counseling, whatever, in different parts of the world, but then. In our context, maybe somebody who's saying, how are you doing today, giving her food, making themselves accessible for her to talk to them. Hopefully there's somebody there, I'm being hopeful. But if that's not the case, then we have we have Regina, who herself can maybe be promiscuous. Maybe she will withhold things. Maybe she would just become a very introverted person. Or extroverted person, she becomes manipulative. Who knows? There's a myriad of personalities or different emotional expressions that she can carry on. And then, of course, like I said, we have another human being, which is the child that's there. But, the another important point I want to touch on is not just awareness. Of course, we have to fight this on multiple from whether it's social media, whether it's the media, whether it's community meetings. I actually strongly think that this has to come from many ways because it's not just only something that affects Liberia. This even if we have to let into the international world or community know what's going on in our country, I think that's helpful. That's calling for help. But we have to let our country and people know that if when you damage a girl or a woman in the country, you are ruining the potential of growth for your country because you don't know who that woman or that girl could have been. Yeah. Okay? You are stagnating development by not attending to a female child or a boy. Let me just, even a girl, boy, actually, I don't want to be gender specific. I'm just speaking because from a female's perspective, from my perspective, okay? So we need to go beyond that, and mothers need to know, like when your daughter is damaged, you yourself become a damaged person, okay? When you're not able to express yourself verbally of what's going on, you become a sore person, an emotional, a person who's emotional inside, and you can't concentrate, you can't do things well. And maybe this is what's going on in our country, because we are not able to regulate ourselves. The same that I would like to see, so it's like a community by community. There's other countries, and I'd like to use the example of Rwanda, development. They went through similar civil war, different country. I understand that, but they have built benches in Rwanda. They call them like the counseling bench, where they put in different parts of the city where people can just come, and if you need support, you need to talk, you just sit there, and somebody, will just, these are not trained counselors, they can just come in and provide you that kind of support. But I think we have to go intrinsically, household by household, village by village, town by town, and let people know it is not okay. No. And damaging a child sexually or physically has it has long-term consequences for our country. That's how bad it is, an epidemic. That's how bad it is.
Wow. All right. Let's take a short break. When we let's say not really break. We just come into the end of the show, but let's take your comments as well. Elizabeth Kpakio, when we create a law, we are expecting the judge to implement it according to the law. But look, for example, AMP terminal contract, the commercial court judge taking some 3,600 from a Liberian businessman account that the government of Mr. Weir has to pay back. Okay, let me leave that. Okay. Let me see what I can bring somebody, another advocate in on this show via the video as well. Okay, the video is not going through. All right. But finally, before I let you people go, let me come back to you. Kula. Kula, you were on the ground for for a good number of years working with young people at the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Did you see any sort of sign on the ground because where you are right now, you like with those examples you said, I mean, are something that happening because we have counselors in schools and we have help that when things that they comes on, somebody get extensive help. Did you ever see anything of that nature when you heard and whenever you hear of a child being raped, allegedly raped and being taken to the police and then maybe passing over to the, I don't know whether we have social services or whatsoever. Did you see anything of that kind of a support that can give life back to to a victim of such?
There are institutions in Liberia that have been working for and with victims and their families to help support them. Like I said, there is a UN's place there on the bypass that supports victims and their family to get evidence. So there a female lawyers association that she talked about. There are a number of different outlet that you can reach out there. Think Touching Humanity in Need of Kindness that has a safe home. Even the Ministry of Gender has safe home across in some of the counties. But again, like that first point of contact, most times when things happen, people run to the police. And then there is the Women and Children Protection section at the Liberian National Police. But again, sometimes the police people compromise the case before you even go further. And they try to damage evidence and all that. Everything that's happening is very minimum and small scale, and it's really challenging. Even these institutions that I mentioned, to get support or resources, it's been very, very difficult.
Yeah, but I mean, from the central government perspective, like for example, we have Ministry of Health, like you just said, but we should have social services that can just come in and from day one to.
So there used to be Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, and now it's going to very recently they changed the law. So now the social protection went to the Ministry of Gender because Ministry of Gender was doing a lot of social protection issue, like I talk about a safe home for sexual and gender-based violence victims, and so some of the safe homes are across the country, but then even those safe homes is really challenging and difficult for them. Even central government to Ministry of Gender receives one of the least budgetary supports from national government. Most of Ministry of Gender's funding comes from outside, comes from donor support, comes from the UN or the UN Women and all those other institutions that are dealing with that. So central government is really difficult. The Ministry of Gender receives very limited funding from the central government. And that's one of the problems. Even with the schools, Ministry of Education, most of the schools don't have counselors. Maybe there may be private schools that invest in having counselors for students. And even with those counselors, they might not be enough. Maybe the whole school will have one or two counselors, especially for private schools. Mm-hmm. And like in the US or even here in the UK, I mean, people, the specific student assigned to a specific counselor. So maybe few students will be assigned with one counselor, maybe 4 or 5 or 10 students or a counselor. I mean, depending on where you are and what the situation is.
Yeah.
But in Liberia, if a school has counselor, maybe 1 or 2, or even nurse counselors sometimes, so there are more people and less people that can help support them. So again, I mean, a lot of these things really need to take root, and maybe people who are working with the Ministry of Education and Gender need to start thinking, maybe have some Ministry of Gender, have some counselors that will work directly with the school and build those institutions. Maybe once a while do a nationwide campaign, go to different schools and talk about gender-based violence and what are the outlets, or what do you need to do when you have a sign, or maybe you have a hotline out there that people can call whenever, and there are people who are willing to listen and call for help. Like everywhere, even here in the UK, where you're having some issue, psychological issue, you just have people who just there to listen to you. Just call. Someone on the other end of the line who's willing to listen to you, and if you just need someone to listen to, sometimes if you have those kinds of things that really it doesn't cost that much to do, right? To talk about it, but everybody looking at the big issue, and in this soft issue really have problem on the bigger picture of the entire country.
All right. Okay, Francine, let's come to the advancement of continuation of our campaigning, especially from where we are. You are one of those that have been on this on this issue of Regina since we got this story. In terms of I don't know how much hope, first of all, do you have that there's still light at the end of the tunnel in her case, and also whether indeed we still have that hope that one day there will be justice for her. And of course, where do we stand now? How can we advance this campaign forward? Who can we take this campaign to now?
Well, I'm still hopeful, actually. Whether it takes us 100 years, this is a mission for me and many other women. As you know, out of Regina's story, a whole organization called the Diaspora Women for Change was developed. And there's a group of us here that meet at least monthly to just process and to sort of assess, the situation with Regina and others, because since then it's interesting that we get flooded every morning. When I open my messenger, there's emails from Liberia, of all the different cases. But somehow people have become familiar with what we do, and we've do little things, that big things. For example, there was a recent case of this girl, 15-year-old girl, raped in the Burrillville area. They did take the perpetrator to court, but somehow, the evidence was tampered with, and he was let go. Now he's on the run. And of course, we're able to send money to that organization. It's a whole community organization there who were then able to get the representative involved. And also, I was able to at least send a letter out to, at the time, the police director before the change of government took place. So we are having fundraising. We are exploring international donors. We are doing international advocating for someone to put light on this situation. If I can get in touch with, if I could get in touch with perhaps the judge who's on Regina's case, which
is that a judge?
Something that I would like to do to find out what's going on.
Is that a judge on her case?
There's no case for a judge.
There's a judge called Judge Peabody.
Is that a case in fact for Regina?
There's a case that has not been dismissed right now. The representative who allegedly raped Regina is going to the court to actually have the case dropped because it's hanging in there for lack of evidence. Well, they haven't brought out evidence yet, so there still is a potential case. So he hasn't been free yet. Actually, they have not declared him free for lack of evidence either.
Right.
Because the young man who was involved with the case, Ibrahim Keita was in fact asked to go to the court was because the lack of evidence. That's where that's why he was called for questioning, and then they wanted to arrest him, and then they had to drop the case later on because he went on. And from Fish Africa and the rest of the people haven't really been able to do a good job to galvanize enough evidence to bring a case. But we're all hopeful. And what we also heard was that the little baby, of Regina's baby, was dead. But we don't know how true that is because nobody can actually bring any factual information and be very direct that this is exactly what's happening. We all hope and pray that someday some answer will emerge from somewhere and this mystery will be solved, and this man can definitely go to a prison and go to jail for this.
Okay, finally, before I let go of you both, let me first of all again say, all appreciation. Thanks to Erica, who called Ella from Liberia and stayed with us for at least more than 30 minutes. Advocacy, as far as as far as it is concerned, is something that somebody should do willingly, and should do it without setting any boundaries, also that they can cross this way and they only stop here also. But in terms of where we stand today, our society is so fragile, and people are perhaps using advocacy as a means of perhaps being notified or so. Would you ever anticipate or envision to see advocacy being the means of finding justice in Liberia? And if so, what are some of the issues that we should be aware of, that as advocates, that will keep us on the toes moving? Let me start with you, Kula.
Well, I think the thing about advocacy, everybody has something that they're passionate about. For example, if your issue is violence against women and girls, I just think that there's so much going on that you have to be involved with what's going on the ground, and how you can partner with other organizations and people to be able to bring the issues of women and girls forward.
Max, this is Stephanie, we have Max, or not Max, but Francien on Max show. And they're talking about, we have
hello.
You on Facebook.
Hello.
We have Francien, Dr. Francien on Max show on Facebook, talking about Liberia and the rape issue and women issue.
Is that Yazdi?
You want to log in there and then listen to her for a second?
Yazdi?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Okay. Hang on 1 minute. Kula was talking. Is that you calling 770?
It is me. Stephanie, I'm on the other line with Max. Like I said, Dr. Francien is on the show with him. Can you try to? His name is Max, so he's live on Facebook. If you can log in there. Max, I'm trying to get someone to share your show.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, he is now.
Okay, you're welcome on the show, and I know you've been trying a long time to call on the video to share your views on this, or what we're talking about. Although the show is just about wrapping, but yes, it's good that you join in. You also, you are one of those women that actually propounding on the issues that has to do with social justice. Where do you stand on most of the stuff that we've been discussing here, especially seeking justice for little children, innocent ones?
Right. And I just wanted to commend the two ladies on the phone, Kula, I believe that's your name, and Dr. Francien Chinwe. We are actually working with Dr. Chinwe at this point. We have an organization called the Alliance of Liberian Women in India. So I believe she's doing a fundraiser on the 17th. And Dr. need to talk and invite the public on that, because we will need to find out these things. Yeah. Emma, hold on for me 1 second.
And we'll do that tomorrow.
We will have to find out these things. Money speaks in Liberia. But let me just elaborate a little more from my particular childhood. Although I've been fortunate where I was guided and I was protected.
But I live in a neighborhood where those things were rampant in a sense that boys were called whipping girls, having a party with her, okay, and they laughed about it. So this is not something that is just happening today. I'm a little bit. This is something that is deeply rooted in our culture, in the very fabric of our society. Okay, and we have to get to the bottom of it. We are looking at it today because we have social media. Women are finding the guts to stand up all the very few. What I can say to mothers and fathers, okay, we as women have to champion our own cause. No one will fight for us. And what needs to happen, whether it's a small advertisement or the awareness, however you may call it, on social media or in neighborhood, that is an awareness. Okay? This is something that was taboo that we could not talk about. The mere fact that at this point we're coming to a table, we're coming to a place to even acknowledge that it exists, that is the beginning of understanding, if you ask me. All right? I come from a family where, I have a medical background to some degree, where women are married at a very young age. I've always told people, my aunt was the last of my mother's generation, so I literally refused to be married when her dad was paid. She ran away until the money had to be refunded. All right? So that was the beginning of the independence of the women in my family. Now, you will have a society that is so rotten with corruption. And people think corruption is only money. We're talking about moral corruption. We're talking about, and we can outline that. And the very center or the lifeblood of the country is embedded into that. But we will have, again, Max, people like you, people like Francien, people like Miss Kula, people like Stephanie Sechoya, Cindy Martin, and few other women, where we have to come together. We got to get in those neighborhoods, and we start by, talking, and somebody talking to the next person, and the next person talking to the next person. Now, what we need to do as individuals, build a consensus, a partnership. We all cannot be on the ground together. Okay, now we go to school. My child kids in the United States, the moment they're old enough to understand, in fact, when my kids were little to say no and yes, you teach them, especially your daughters. And so then we have to teach our sons too, that you cannot sit on Uncle lap this way. If you sit on Uncle lap, you can only sit on one side of the lap. You can't sit in the middle of where your private part is, because that's how these people molest these children. And the picture is bigger. We need to create a platform to be able to talk that we can have our own Me Too movement, where there's a moment where people can come. And like I said the other day, it is not anyone's shame to carry. If you said no, whether your doors were open and he was between you, like the moment you said no, it was time for him to get off. Absolutely. It does not matter if you were walking in the street and somebody grabbed you by the tush and you tell them stop, that's the time that you stop. Okay? Yeah. We come from a culture where women are regarded as property. Look, let me tell you something. As a young girl, maybe like 12, 13 years old, we lived behind the Sophie's ice cream shop next to the animal clinic. And these women are new, and I'm not going to call any tribal people. They were just a little girl, very teenager, on Sunday evening to go to the beach to find men that have money. Okay? All right? So this is not just the soccer so short, but it's culturally embedded. Okay? So we have to go, we got to look at it holistically. It's systemic. Okay, yes. I was in Monrovia in October where a man brought two little girls, I would say babies, to take them into a hotel. Babies. Okay? And when I always end my show, I have a 17-year-old, praise God. I can say she's 17, going to 13. I am the mother that would kill somebody for my child. And I praise God for America because it taught me to be a mother. That it makes me understand that a mother has her place and she has a powerful and impactful voice and existing in a child's life, be it a girl or a boy. But not only do we teach our daughters to say no and stand up we also have to stand up for them. We also have to teach our sons to say, if a girl tells you no, you respect her.
Sure.
So it cut both ways. You know, we can talk like when you asked Dr. Francien earlier, is that people have mental disorder or biological disposition. Yes, people do. Since I started this work, people send me the first photo that I saw with a baby that less than 3 months old. A man molesting a baby. I just puke. Wow. I had a migraine. 2 days I could not get off my bed because it was shocking to me. I watched a show that I watched for the past 20 some almost 30 years called Special Victim Unit. That these things happen, but I position in my head as a movie. But to actually happen to where it's live, somebody is. So it's not just in Liberia. There are people who have disability, developmental disability, mental disability, emotional disability. And if you ask me if this won't ever heal, if you ask me, I'm not a doctor, but from my own studies and developmental effects, I don't think you can ever fully heal. You become distrustful, okay? Because the people that are supposed to protect you, where were they? You feel guilty. It never happened to me, but I know people that it happened to. I have kids who are big sisters too, who come on my show. They're there every day. They don't say one word. They're living in that shadows.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of let me hold you there because of time. In terms of a way forward, you know, you've been talking, you know, you've been advocating for quite a while as well. I'm trying to get a way forward now because I know we got few people that are listening who think they are, as far as this running this government is concerned, they have some responsibility. What are the way forward now, since in fact you know, people keep doing the simple thing? This rape issue is not, I don't know why it's not going. What are the way forward before I let you go?
I think if I can just feel a little bit of
go ahead. That's your professional arena. I would give you the courtesy to go ahead, please, by all means. Yeah.
With you, Yas, because I think you hit the go ahead, Max, your question, and Yas answered this very well earlier, is that we have to attack this head on. As I'm describing, it's an epidemic, and it's not just going to take passion anymore. We a lot of passion have brought us together, but she said it's going to take your hard-earned money and time. Okay, what I mean is that we have to do fundraising. What organization you are in, and she's doing hers, I'm doing mine, others are doing theirs. We're going to have to come together, go to Liberia, because, of course, we who are not there, partner with the people who are in Liberia, assess the situation. We have some general understanding, and I was there in April as well as last year, and I was doing my own personal assessment of the situation, and we go back and deeply assess the situation, and, of course, formulate plans. I'm not really dependent on the government anymore, to tell you the truth.
Oh,
we have to
give up
outside of the government. No, I want to say that the government will tell me they don't have money to put into the things that we need to do. The government tell me that they can't take people to court because they have maybe a conflict of interest issue. Me and some other women have to be the ones to do that.
Okay. The
government tell me they don't have money to educate people. Me and some women will have to be the ones to do that.
This is
that's the way forward.
For me, this topic is something that I will want to talk forever and forever and ever until we can get position. But because of time, we're going to end here tonight. But before I let you all go, let me come to Kula. Kula, first of all, thank you so much for giving us your time. Very, very good time you have given us tonight, enlightening our minds and also propounding on issues that we all are supposed to be concerned with. But what would be your final words for tonight? But please keep your lines open for us. We will always be trying to reach you to come here and talk to us as well.
Oh, no problem. First of all, just thank you for having this conversation. I think this is a conversation that needs to continue. And beyond just the radio, whatever forum, physical forum, The conversation needs to take place in Liberia, in schools, in neighborhoods, in family households, whichever means we can continue this so that people understand that their daughters are not properties for them, or they have to protect their children, and protection of the children first starts with the family, starts with you as the parent. That's why you went ahead to have the baby, and because you have that baby, it is your responsibility to take care of that baby and not the other way around. And how we can all continue that. This is a collective effort. Both government can do her bit, civil society can do their bit, organizations can do their bit, people can get together and really continue this. I think it's a collective effort. But besides just talking and doing all that, the legal instruments too are very important. And we work on from both prevention and the kill aspect. So if a child is raped and this person is caught and is going to court, what kind of psychosocial support, like somebody said, it's something that you can't just heal from it. You don't just, it's forever scar that's left, even if you survive it. Some girls don't survive it, some of them have died, but those who survive, it's forever. What kind of support they can get that will help them just to get by, because they won't get healed from it. Someone take your innocence from you and violate it. You ask yourself so much question. You want to, sometimes some of these young girls be on a suicide watch, because if you can't hinder it, you want to just get lost or disappear. And we don't have those kinds of support for people. Psychosocial support in Liberia is very low, very, very low, if it's even there, because many people are traumatized in Liberia. So it's a lot of different things that we all can do, but at least I think a day at a time, one step at a time, can really get us there. And your effort in taking this issue is important. Other people need to follow, and other fathers, because I would have really loved for you to also have a male as a guest, to be able to hear that perspective.
Okay,
too.
we will definitely.
Sometimes what happens is you just have women talking about this issue that we know this is the issue. We like sing to the choir all the time. How do we bring the fathers on board? How do we bring the men who really should care about this? Because this is not only about women, it's about the men, it's about the fathers too. Because most of the people are men. And of course there's perpetrators who are women, but also just to have I really hope maybe next time just bring all men together and hear what they will say and why, just to understand why do majority of the perpetrators are men. But anyways, thank you for the time. Look forward to
Kula.
having
Dr. Francien, let's get your departing word.
So just thank you for inviting me on to discuss this very passionate issue. Thank you to the audience for listening. We just hope that everyone will take a lot of hands to contribute to Liberia, to contribute more about the human resources, to contribute to developing the minds in Liberia. So I want to just say thank you, and hopefully that we all can just work together to decrease this epidemic of victimizing women and children in Liberia.
Okay. Lastly, let's hear from you, Jensdy. Okay, I think she mute her.
No, I'm here. Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Let's.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, let's get your departing statement.
Well, and like the doc just said, I really wish we had some men on here. I recommend some guys.
We will.
Will come on.
Please recommend them. Please recommend them. We'll do it next week. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So in other words, we need the men. We need the women to lead. We need the men's shoulders to be strong and forthcoming with our people. The conversation needs to start also in our homes, in the diaspora, because it's happening. It's culturally, it's happening in our homes. And then we saw years ago the young lady who killed her father in Rhode Island or Staten Island, one of the islands. I don't know, I can't remember precisely now. It's still happening. I know for a fact here there's a young girl here who went to live with her sister, and her sister has been pregnant with her, but they're hiding in the house. Okay, so it's something that is deeply rooted, all right? We can talk about it on the surface, but we also have to deal with it. We have to deal with it on the professional level in our household around the world, and we have to talk to people in leadership. Anyone in the position of power, teachers, nurses, doctor, police officer, immigration, president, vice president, lawmakers especially, and law enforcers. These people, okay? Anyone in the position of power, big brother, big sister, we need to have these conversations. Not likely. 70% of Liberian women will be raped before they're 17. That's a lot of struggles to deal with. And you think Liberian women run around? That's all they know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all they know. That's the value you put on your daughters.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop this far. Max, thank you for having me. Francien, we're on board. We will be there on the 17th by fire, by force. We need you to support.
All right,
community.
let me use this time on behalf of
Thank
Radio
you.
LIB Management to extend my thanks and appreciation to all of you, especially, you, Kula, Erica, Dr. Francine, for accepting our invitation to come on the show to share with us these passion is issues. I mean, I wish we could have gone more and more hours again, but we will definitely arrange another time where we can have a kind of gender balanced discussion here on this issue. But for tonight, I want to say, or this morning or this evening, I want to say thank you so much, Kula. Thank you, Dr. Francine, for your time, and goodbye for now to both of you. Right, you tune right.
Everything that brought me laughter, they had been stolen from me. Lord, I want a new day.
Yes, indeed. That child will.
I want a new day.
When you have that child, you feel
I want a new day.
you have the plan that indeed they will bring you joy.
I want a new day.
That they will be successful in the future, to give you, to support you.
Give me a new day.
The moment that had having to take place,
Give me a new day.
when you get that news,
Please give me
that you're 8 years old, that you're 7 years old, was raped on her way to school,
to struggle before I survive.
the dark clouds will hang over you.
Before I can make it.
You begin to ask yourself questions, so many questions
What I want.
that no one can provide answer for you.
Everybody laughing at me.
And people will even begin to
As I grow,
laugh at you.
that's what I've come to you, Lord.
The quest of seeking justice for Regina and her infant, and all of those little ones that have been
You are the only God I know.
that have been shortened, their life have been shortened
Only God
due to these ugly men behavior.
said that I put that trust in you, Lord. That shall never be put to shame.
Let us continue bearing the mountain,
Come to you with
seeking justice for those who are voiceless, for those who cannot talk. They want to,
my hero.
but they have the fear.
What I want is a new day.
So that's a new day I'm actually wishing for. A new day in Liberia, where justice will not be for only those who have money, where justice will not be for only those who have name,
You said, behold,
but let justice be done to all of us.
I'm about to do a new thing.
And give us the hope, Lord.
You said you
Give us a new day in Liberia, where our government officials will have fear in you
was my enemy.
and put you first. Because when they recognize you, they will have fear in you and they will serve their people diligently.
Give me a new day.
Give us a new day in Liberia.
Give me a new day.
Our leaders will protect us.
I don't want
They
you.
will speak for us.
What I want.
Those laws that they are making, they will make sure that they defend them in our own interest.
Yesterday broke my heart. Yesterday brought me peace and frustration. I don't want yesterday. All that I want is a new day.
We want a new day.
Give me a new day.
A new day that Justice can be for each and everyone.
What's my enemies are shame? Yahweh.
And you can be poor and get justice in the court.
Give me a new day, God. Whatever sin I have committed, have mercy on me, God.
Give us a new day.
Come to you, Yahweh.
You tune writer, you tune to radio LIB. My name is Max K, but stay call me Max Mixer or Max Kpakio. You've been listening to the program. It's a special edition of the Max K Talk Show here on radio LIB. And of course, with me on the show were three distinguished ladies. Madam Kula Fofana, thank you so much. Dr. Francien Richardson, I appreciate you as well. Erica Davis Cole, who spoke to us from Liberia. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Alright, you tune right here, you tune to Radio LIB. My name is Max K. I better stay call me Max Mix. I've been broadcasting to you from Studio 91 of Radio LIB here in the United Kingdom. I want to say thank you so much for all of you that have been tuning to Radio LIB via the internet. Today we went to 9,000 people were actually tuning into via the internet. And for those of you via the Facebook live, thank you also for joining in, and thanks to all of you that actually made your contribution as well. It was wonderful on the show. From my end, this is how I going to bid you goodbye. As I just about to send control back to New York City, where my colleague Tunis is standing by to take you to another level of radio programming here. God's willing, tomorrow morning we'll be back at 11 o'clock Liberian time for the program, The Print News. The Print News is the program that we bring you, we read out to you some of the headlines that are making the news in the local daily in Liberia and of course across the continent of Africa. So your invitation is to join me tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock for the program, The Print News. Until then, from my end, I say, shalom,
African, R&B, gospel, soca, reggae, Radio LIB is the best.
Turn the radio
Bye.
up for me.
I love you all.
I want to hear Radio LIB. If you want it for R&B, just turn to Radio LIB. Long time, girl, you see me in town. You've been missing me from LIB. So mark my words,
out of darkness into the light. Experience the moment of truth.
Bye-bye.
The
Thank you.
joy of a lifetime is here. Radio LIB, Liberia's #1 online radio station. In order to provide you with quality round-the-clock programming and entertainment, your #1 station depends on its listeners' donations. Please donate to Radio LIB by clicking on the Donations tab at the top of the webpage. Radio LIB appreciates any amount donated to keep the station running. Thank you for listening to Radio LIB, and thank you for donating to Radio LIB.